Okay, everybody, welcome back to the #1 television show in the history of the universe. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon, and The Blackest Heart, and The Lonesome Crown, all three books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today I'm going to be reviewing Cormac McCarthy's newest novel, The Passenger, just came out about a month ago. And then just about a week ago, the sequel, or the companion book, came out, Stella Maris. So they kind of go hand in hand. And I've read both of them. Today I'm going to be reviewing the first book, The Passenger. And then tomorrow I'll be dropping a review of my thoughts on the second book, Stella Maris. Now, I haven't read a whole lot of Cormac McCarthy. I have read parts of Blood Meridian. And I have also read, I've read The Road, which is one of my favorite books. I mean, it's just a great book. And I'm thinking about getting a whole lot more Cormac McCarthy books after reading these two here. Maybe I'll just get a Cormac McCarthy collection going. So, The Passenger. I mean, Cormac McCarthy hasn't written anything in about 15 years. I mean, The Road was the last book he wrote. And it's been about 15 years since he's done anything. And he's an old dude. I think he's in his 1990s. No, he's not in his 1990s. He's in his 90s, or at least approaching his 90s. He's an old guy. And these are very refreshingly, like hip books for a young dude. I mean, an old dude. I'm going to edit all that garbage out. You won't even know that I said that. Anyway, let's talk about this. Let's talk about the cover first. The cover's cool. I like it. It's just really simple and elegant. It's got, you know, a wraparound. If we fold it out, we got the upside down head. It matches in tone what's going on in the sequel. So they're kind of like, you know, they go together really well. You can see the spines make this like face upside down. It's just pretty dope overall. They just go together, you know, however you put them together. They fit. They look nice on the shelf is what I'm saying. So good for the publisher for doing all that for us. Anyway, Cormac McCarthy, he's an acquired taste. I'll be honest, sometimes I'll pick up like the Blood Meridian book. I've tried reading it a few times and I just get lost in the strange writing that he's got. I think The Road was a little more palatable. Well, quite a bit more palatable. I've tried all the Pretty Horses, a few things like that. I've just got to, when I read books by Cormac McCarthy, and I've only read 3 so far, I really got to settle myself down and just accept the fact that I'm reading the words of a writer that just doesn't write conventional sentences, that's just trying to be a little different. Sometimes I think it's maybe a little over the top and pretentious what's going on, but at the same time, it can also be very elegant and poetic, and that's mostly what I get from it. But if you've read Cormac McCarthy, you know what I'm talking about. This book is about a gentleman named Bobby Western. It takes place in 1980 in the Mississippi, off the coast of Mississippi. And Bobby Western, it turns out, he's a salvage diver. He dives down and investigates wrecked ships or whatever's at the bottom of the ocean. And he's got kind of a crew that he does this with, and they're kind of an eclectic, engaging crew, and they get into conversations all the time, and I really enjoy their conversations. I mean, some of the best conversations about the Vietnam War can be found in the opening pages of this book. I mean, I just was riveted by some of the stories some of these characters were telling about the war. I just really enjoyed the back and forth. I mean, the conversations that Cormac McCarthy writes are on par with some of the best stuff that Elmore Leonard wrote in all of his sort of noir fiction novels, and that a lot of, and if you want to know kind of what I'm talking about, if you haven't read Elmore Leonard, just imagine a Quentin Tarantino movie and the dialogue that flows through those. That's kind of what we're getting at here with this book. And these divers, they're swimming down into a wreck of an airplane, and it's a bigger size airplane. It's got 9 bodies in it, and all the bodies are buckled in the seats. They're dead. But there's a few mysteries down in under the water. There's the pilot's flight bag is missing. The black box is missing. You know, when they and there's a 10th passenger. The 10th passenger is missing. Thus, the name of the book. So that sets up kind of a mystery that we are dealing with, an underlying mystery that sort of floats underneath everything that's happening in this novel. But that's not all the novel is about. The novel is more about Bobby Western. Now, and sort of his history. And sort of what he goes through going forward from this event of being a salvage diver and going under the water and finding this plane wreck. Well, what happens is he being chased? The mystery is it an international mystery? Is this a thriller novel? Is somebody the missing passenger? Is what's going on here? People are looking for it. They want answers. They are investigating. People start following Bobby Western around, or so he thinks. People are asking weird questions about the crash and what he saw underwater, and he's getting concerned, but then he also at the same time he's kind of like, whatever, I don't really care. He actually sort of starts to not even care. And then but this is a book that's just it bounces between almost a ghost story, like a supernatural thing, a mystery novel, just sort of like a literary piece of fiction that talks about morality, science, the legacy of sin, the nature of madness, and people with mental illness. There's a mystery behind his father, who invented the atomic bomb that they dropped on Hiroshima. There's a mystery behind his sister, who he's weirdly tied to, and who was the main focus of this book, Stella Maris. So we get Bobby's story here, and then we get his sister's story over here, and they're very interconnected. Now, this book takes us from the bar rooms, the dirty bar rooms of New Orleans, to the offshore oil rigs off the coast of Florida, and everywhere down in the South. It's just a really interesting book. Is there lots of explosions and gunfights and knife fights and exciting things happening? No, this is a literary piece of fiction, just like, I mean, I would say that The Road has way more action scenes than this by far. This is just kind of like a literary, it's like John Irving or Pat Conroy. It really kind of reminded me of those a lot. Now, did I like it? I did. I liked most parts of it. This is heavily on dialogue. I mean, you don't get a lot of descriptions of, you know, other than the opening scene when they're diving down into the plane wreckage, you don't get a lot of descriptions of the landscape or where you're at. This book is told through 90% dialogue. And then, now this book is told through 100% dialogue, and when we get to the review of that, I'm going to mention that a little bit. But it's kind of like a different way to write a story. I don't know whether it's an easier way to write a story, a more difficult way to write a story, but it's different. I know in my own writing, there are scenes in my own books that I've written where I will just go page and page and page of nothing but dialogue and people talking back and forth. I find that type of storytelling a lot easier to write, because when you're writing the words that come out of people's mouths, you don't always have to be grammatically correct, which plays excellently into Cormac McCarthy's writing style. And you don't always have to, you don't have to do any world building or scene describing or any of that. It's like a lot of the hard work's being stripped out of it. Not to say that writing dialogue is easy, because it's not. And this guy writes some very good dialogue. Like I told you at the beginning of the book, there are some conversations these characters have about the Vietnam War that absolutely had me riveted to my seat. And that's good writing. Very good writing. Writing good dialogue that can paint a picture is a talent in itself. Anyway, I give this book about a 7.5 out of 10. For me, dude, I would have liked more sword fights and dragons and things like that, but that's not what we're getting. But as for just as something that, like, I love Pat Conroy and I love John Irving, and now I guess Cormac McCarthy is going to be my next literary fiction guy that I start to collect. 7.5 is pretty good. 7.5 is pretty good out of 10. So there you go. That's my review of The Passenger by Cormac McCarthy. I liked it.